During the 1400s until the 1700s, there were many witch trials throughout Europe, peaking between 1560 and 1630. Most of the accused were women above the age of 40, who were often accused by their neighbors or other people close to them. Even though most cases were of women, there are instances where the accused were men and even whole families. One of the places that saw most witch trials in all of Europe was the Holy Roman Empire. And in this region during the peak of witch trials, there was a family that was accused of witchcraft. In this video, we are going to talk about what happened to them. The region in the middle of the Holy Roman Empire consisted of autonomous regions controlled by Catholic prince-bishops. This area became infamous for its large-scale mass witch trials. In Bavaria, in the year 1600, a family of 5 living at the height of witch hunts became a target for this hysteria and mob mentality. The family that became known as the Pappenheimer family consisted of parents Paulus and Anna Gamperl, their 2 adult sons Michel and Gumprecht, and a 10-year-old boy named Hansel. They were a family of beggars from Swabia, traveling from place to place supporting themselves by digging graves and disposing of others' waste. At the time, there had been a lot of crimes committed by vagrants in the region, so the authorities had decided to crack down on vagrants. A thief that was arrested named the 2 adult sons of the Pappenheimer family, Michael and Gumprecht, as his accomplices in a murder of a pregnant woman. He would go on and accuse the entire family as robbers and murderers before being executed. The authorities took note of this and started looking for the family. In February year 1600, the family was found and arrested in the middle of the night. They were taken to jail and put in custody. The Duke of Bavaria, Maximilian I, ordered the family to be taken to Munich and imprisoned them inside the Falcon Tower. A man named Johann Sigismund Wagnerek, a counselor to the Duke, was appointed as a leading official of the trial. Wagnerek had tried to start witch trials in the region earlier, but had been unsuccessful due to the Bavaria elite opposing witch trials. When accused of witchcraft, you could not use alibi as a defense, because witchcraft did not require the accused to be at the scene of the crime, making it hard to prove your innocence. With the family now in custody in Munich, Wagnerek started to interrogate the family. His method of interrogation included extreme torture. The main concern of Wagnerek was to get the family to confess to the charge that the family had murdered children, to grind their hands into powder, to then eat, which would have given them magical powers and helped them commit more murders and crimes. As the government had been unable to solve a string of vagrant crimes in the region and now wanted to make an example of the family to make themselves look good and to deter others from committing crimes. Witchcraft was seen as a broad charge and could include all types of other crimes, and in this case made it a catch-all for almost all the unsolved crimes committed in the region the last 10 years. They started by torturing Hansel by beating him with a cane, expecting him to break first due to his young age. The other family members were tortured with strappado and squassation, 2 types of torture methods where the victim's hands are bound behind their back and then raised by their arms by a rope and then repeatedly dropped from a height only to be stopped by a sudden jerk, dislocating the shoulders, sometimes with weights attached to the feet. The torture also included rope burns and torch burnings. The family initially denied all charges, but the torture became so intense that they started confessing to anything just to make it stop, except Hansel, who did not confess to anything. The family is tortured into making confessions of having had sex with the devil and signing a pact with the devil in exchange for money and valuables. In the manuscripts of the interrogations, Michel is recorded being tortured into giving a confession where the devil approached him in the form of a woman to which he talks, and she then asks him to copulate with her, and he did. After copulating, the devil asked him to renounce God. To complete the pact, the devil wanted hair from his head, armpit and private parts, all from the left side of his body, and a piece of nail from the big toe on his left foot, and lastly, the devil wanted powder grinded from children's hands. The devil then scratched Michel on his left side, collecting his blood in a little box, then taking out a sheet of paper, placing it on his knee and put a pen into Michel's hand. Michel, who was illiterate, could not write, so the devil guided his hand and signed the pact. The devil then wrapped the paper up with everything Michel had given her, completing the deal with the devil. In exchange, the devil gave Michel money and a mysterious ointment, telling him that anyone smeared with the ointment would become sick. As in many other witch trials, they were tortured into giving names of accomplices. In the end, they implicated more than 400 others during the trial. Many of the names were of people who did not even exist. That summer, 2 more men were arrested as accomplices, the tailor George Schmaltz and farmer Ulrich Schultz. The family and the 2 arrested accomplices were, after going through a show trial, sentenced to death. Given his age and lack of confession, Hansel was spared, but ordered to attend the execution as it was seen as beneficial for him. The sheriff would keep an eye on Hansel to see how he would act during the execution and look for anything that would reveal his potential guilt. The execution procedure was started by burning the accused with hot tongs 6 times each. The executioner would then cut off Anna's breasts and then proceed to rub the breasts around her mouth and around the mouth of her 2 adult sons. After this, the accused were transported by cart to the execution grounds. During the transport, Hansel was recorded saying the following, quote, "Look, look, what a grand wedding for my father and mother. They've got so many men-at-arms the Duke doesn't have as many himself." At the execution ground, all the males would have their arms broken at the wheel. Looking on, Hansel cried, quote, "Look, how they're thumping my father's arms!" The Father Paulus was executed by impalement, a horrific type of execution where a large wooden stake is driven up through the anus, through the intestines, and out through the mouth. This was an exceptional way of execution, as it was not something that was used at the time. At this time, there was a law against burning people alive in Bavaria, but as the government wanted to make an example of the family and deter others from engaging in witchcraft, the remaining of the accused were executed by being burned alive. While sitting on the sheriff's horse watching his mother and brothers being burned alive, 10-year-old Hansel is quoted screaming with tormented cries. As the Pappenheimer family had named a lot of people during their torture, the downward spiral continued. More arrests were done following the execution. 5 more people were arrested and put through the same type of torture as the Pappenheimers, confessing to all types of crimes and naming even more accomplices. After a trial, they were also condemned to be burned alive. The report given by the sheriff of Hansel's behavior on the day of his family's execution was examined, and Hansel was determined to be guilty of witchcraft and sentenced to death despite his age. The hysteria of the time was too great. Hansel's young age did not save his life. Hansel and the 5 others were executed that November. As the recently executed had named even more accomplices, Wagnerek wanted to continue this cycle of persecution, but as the accused were of higher social standing, they were able to defend themselves. Some lawyers in Bavaria objected to it being justifiable to condemn someone who had made a confession under torture. The Duke, seeing anomalies in the trials, orders a stop to the witch hunt. Even though anomalies in the trials were found, no one was punished for this, and Wagnerek was able to continue a prosperous life without punishment for his cruel torture. Thank you for tuning in to this episode. I hope you liked it. If you like our content, please subscribe, like the video, and share your thoughts. Thanks for watching.